Hello bookworms, I'm Hannah, and this is my March wrap-up video. This month I read 3 middle grade novels, 1 YA novel, 4 art books, 2 nonfiction books for adults, and 13 adult fiction novels for a total of 23 books. 8 of the books I read this month are from this year's longlist for the Bailey's Women's Prize. I recently posted a video explaining what the Bailey's Women's Prize is and briefly introducing all 16 books on this year's longlist. If you missed that video, I'll provide a link to it down below. Since I'll be releasing a video series in May where I review all of the longlist books, I'm excluding longlist books from this wrap-up video. I'll be going over my top picks for the month in order from least to top favorite. As usual, this video will remain spoiler-free, and I have 9 books to share with you, so let's get started. First up is Nutshell by Ian McEwan, which is the story of a woman concocting a sinister plan of betrayal and possibly murder, as told from the perspective of the 9-month-old baby boy who resides in her womb. It was the author's unique approach to narrative that drew me to this book. By limiting his narrator to such restrictive confines, the author had to overcome a slew of writing challenges, and I think he succeeded in overcoming any hindrances. The baby boy narrator is observant, philosophical, and sardonic. While reading this book, I often felt like I was watching Rear Window, which is one of my favorite Alfred Hitchcock films. If you're a fan of Rear Window, or if you're in the mood for an engaging psychological thriller that's a quick read, check out this book. Next up is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This middle grade novel is the story of a little town that leaves a baby deep in the forest each year as a sacrifice to a witch to deter her from terrorizing the village. One year the witch finds the baby and accidentally feeds her moonlight, which enmagics the baby girl with extraordinary abilities. The witch decides to raise the girl, but as her 13th birthday approaches, her magic grows more erratic and threatens to emerge in full with devastating consequences. This book is a good old-fashioned fairy tale, replete with witches and dragons and creatures from the bog, along with enchanted objects, talking animals, and villainous monsters. So many enjoyable qualities can be found in this narrative. The setting is atmospheric and moody, the cast of characters is large and quirky, and the writing is exquisite. My favorite element of this book is the way magic is portrayed. Sometimes magic is whimsical and sweet, other times it's wicked and disturbing. The Girl Who Drank the Moon won the 2017 Newbery Medal. It's recommended for a slightly older audience, ages 10 to 14, because some elements of the book are disquieting. I believe this book will appeal to fans of Stardust by Neil Gaiman, The Enchanted Forest Chronicles by Patricia C. Reed, and The Mermaid's Sister by Carrie Ann Noble. Keeping in the vein of fantasy middle grade novels, we have The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, which is the first in a 15-book series that I read as a girl and loved. I recently purchased the entire series in these editions from Fall River Press, where each book contains 5 novels, and I'm slowly making my way through a reread of the series. Many of you probably know the story already because of the film released in 1939 starring Judy Garland. It's about a little girl named Dorothy Gale who is swept away on a cyclone to the magical land of Oz, where she makes the acquaintance of 3 peculiar characters on her way to the City of Emeralds to ask the Great Wizard of Oz for his assistance in sending her back home. Right now, many of you are probably thinking it's the Emerald City, but in the book it's referred to as the City of Emeralds. For those of you who have never read the books, I have to tell you, they are not like the film. These books are grim and violent and absent of ruby slippers, and there are several unique characters introduced in the books that never made it into the film. My favorite thing about these books, aside from the utterly bizarre sense of logic that pervades all of Oz, are the gorgeous illustrations. My next top pick of the month is the second book in the series, The Marvelous Land of Oz, which is sometimes titled as The Land of Oz. In the second book, readers follow a boy named Tip, who is raised by a haggard old woman named Mombi. One day, Tip plays a practical joke on Mombi that irritates her, so she decides to turn him into a marble statue as punishment. Before she can conduct the spell, Tip runs away and has a perilous adventure in the Land of Oz with a crew of fantastical companions. I like The Marvelous Land of Oz because the writing is consistent with its predecessor. L. Frank Baum retains the essence of Oz while ramping up the presence of witches and wizards as well as tonics and potions and spells. He even throws in a surprise ending. If you've seen the film Return to Oz, then you might like to know that that movie is based off of the second and third book in this series. Return to Oz is a childhood favorite of mine. If you've never seen it, you need to watch it. Just prepare yourself for something dark, something that's more in tune with the gritty tone of these books. Next up, we have some art books, the first of which is The Art of the Mass Effect Universe by Casey Hudson. This book offers more concept art than commentary on all 3 of the Mass Effect games. The origin and design of every single race is included, along with everything from planets and cities to technology, vehicles, weapons, and armor. The best thing about this book are these stunning full-page illustrations of all of Commander Shepard's companions. This book is perfect for fans of Mass Effect, lovers of science fiction, or people who appreciate the work of artists Sid Mead, John Harris, and John Berkey, or architect Santiago Calatrava, all of whom are credited in this book as being the inspiration for the stylized look of the Mass Effect universe. The second art book is The Art of Dead Space by Martin Robinson, which is a quality compendium of concept art from all 3 Dead Space games. This book covers all the same elements as the Mass Effect art book, like planets, technology, weapons, armor, and so forth, but it includes considerably more commentary. My favorite thing about this book is the significant section dedicated to all of the creatures the protagonist, Isaac Clarke, encounters in the games. It's just a page after page of grotesque mutations, twisted anatomies, extended limbs, and protruding organs. These are horror games, and the creatures are subsequently horrifying. This book credits the book Art Forms in Nature by Ernst Haeckel with providing the inspiration for the vicious alien creatures that were introduced in Dead Space 2. If you're a fan of this series or you're an artist, you might want to check out that book, so I'll provide a link to that down below. The last art book I have for you is The Art of BioShock Infinite by Ken Levine and Nate Wells. In terms of quality and depth of content, The Art of Dead Space and The Art of the Mass Effect universe are probably a better deal because they cover 3 games, but I'm a huge fan of the BioShock games, and I rank BioShock Infinite among my top 5 games of all time, so I bumped this book up the list. What I appreciate about this book is that not only does it show gorgeous concept art for the game, it also includes myriad design elements that were never featured in the game. Those of you who have played all 3 BioShock games know that the first 2 games are dark and gritty, while BioShock Infinite did a 180 and opted for a bright and colorful world. I really enjoyed seeing the more sinister version of the city of Columbia and its inhabitants that were eventually scrapped in lieu of the bright and airy city in the sky that was featured in the game. We are making a grand departure from art books now and turning to a literary novel. That book is The Mothers by Britt Bennett. I received this book and 2 others along with some bookish goodies in a literary box from Quarterly Co. I posted a video explaining what that is and reviewing this book in full. I'll provide a link to that video down below, but for now I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis. The Mothers is about a girl named Nadia Turner who partakes of a dalliance with the pastor's son, the byproduct of which forces her to make a difficult decision. She keeps her decision to herself, thinking her secret will remain in the past, but it follows her into adulthood and ensnares Nadia, her best friend, and the pastor's son in a painful game of asking, what if things had been different? I was enraptured by the writing in this book, not just the abundance of wisdom, but the lyrical way it was phrased in its presentation. If you're a fan of Sula by Toni Morrison, or if you're in the mood for an intimate and emotionally moving read, check out this book. Finally, my #1 read of the month is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I have been waiting for this book for so long, and now that I've read it, I can say it was absolutely worth the wait. This is a young adult epic fantasy and the first book in a new series. I thought the author struck a perfect balance between laying the foundational exposition for this incredible new world and working in a complete story that introduces several endearing and intriguing characters. I don't want to say too much about this book because I refuse to rob anyone of the chance to be as spellbound by this surprising tale as I was. However, I can give you an idea of what to expect from Strange the Dreamer, and that is newly imagined mythical creatures, a fresh take on magic and supernatural abilities, ancient mysteries and forgotten lore, monsters, gods, and creatures of both beauty and terror. This book has luscious prose, a story that's dark yet delightful, heartrending yet tender, and an ending that will leave you hungry for more. If you're a fan of epic fantasies, young love, or if you're in the mood for a read that will hook your imagination and tantalize your senses, then this is the book for you. That concludes my March wrap-up video. If you've read any of these books, I want to know what you thought of them in the comments below. Thanks, everybody!